Hi, I'm the Marvelous Patrick, and welcome to Thing I Love. On this episode, I have my good friend Paul Peterson joining us to talk about the thing he loves, which is running, not something I love. Paul and I met when I was working at the Minneapolis Media Institute. We were both teachers. He was head of the recording program as I was head of the visual arts. And Paul has had an amazing career. Probably his earliest thing that you would know him from was when he was with the Time and was in the movie Purple Rain. From there, he was in The Family, another Prince band, and just also has been a touring musician, touring with acts like Kenny Loggins and Steve Miller, not to mention, of course, and also teaching music production and just being a working musician for a couple decades. And so we had a really awesome time getting caught up again and talking about running of all things. So without further ado, here's Thing I Love with Paul Peterson.
Yeah. Everybody's good. My kids are good. My family's healthy. Just had a hang with my brothers and sisters. 6 of us were here yesterday in the backyard. I'm lucky enough to have space to be able to keep us apart and keep us healthy. But, a lot of us are, I'm not quite at the 65 yet here, thank God, but the rest of my family is. So we are taking it seriously, but we miss each other. So we just decided to have a hang.
I'm glad that you're still able to get together with your siblings. My siblings are spread out across the country, so we never really see much of each other anyway, but we have a group chat going these days. And
well, that's good.
And my nieces and nephews are getting in on it, and because I have all these older nieces and nephews as well, and so we're all doing what we can to, I think, kind of stay in touch. So, which is really important in these times.
And everybody's healthy.
Yes, everyone is healthy, thankfully. Knock on wood there.
Yeah, right.
My 84-year-old mother lives with us, so we were actually really kind of, in a way, it was like nice that I didn't have to keep leaving to go to work every day, because it's like, well, I'm the one that would be bringing something in because I was the only one leaving the house. So now we're all hunkered down, and other than supply runs, that's about it. And it's nice, yeah. And now I'm doing, and I'm doing the show. I think you are the 6th recording I've done. I'm going to be editing next week. I have one more scheduled this week to film, and then the show will be coming out sometime in May. And the whole point is that people share things that they love to do, or other people can try, and try to bring some positivity, especially right now. I think we all need it.
Boy, isn't that the truth? And things that are fun to do and that are safe to do are still, it won't land you in COVID jail.
Yeah, right? Exactly. Now, kind of give the audience some background. You and I met at the Minneapolis Media Institute, where we were both teachers. You were head of the music side, the recording in the music recording program.
Yep.
And then eventually I was on the other side, the visual arts department. So we worked very closely together for about 5.5 years, actually.
Yeah, man. It was fun. I really loved that experience there.
Oh, it was one of the best experiences ever. And I still lament, the corporate ownership kind of
destroying. They ruined everything.
They really did. It was funny because I think we said this isn't going to work when the new guard came in. We said, well, what they want to do but they didn't listen to us, and it's too bad, because it was a good experience. We really tried to do right for our students. So and I think our students are still out there doing well, a lot of them, and I'm happy for them.
They are. And you know what, pardon me, you and I and everyone there went way beyond the call of duty, and for-profit colleges were getting such a bad name at that time. It was, in order for me to sleep at night, I wanted these kids to get the absolute best education they could get. I wanted to give them value, and so did you. We were all on that same page, and I wanted to turn out people that were employable
and talented and able to do things, and had a work ethic, and
that was probably the hardest thing to teach, was the work ethic, because you really can't teach that.
Yeah, you can kind of try to hammer and get your work done, but that's just it, right? I mean, we and sadly the corporate ownership kind of bared out the bad rap that for-profit schools were getting when they started making their changes that went away from those values that we had.
Yeah, when they came in, I think you left before I did, right?
Yeah,
by a year or more.
Probably about a year. Yeah, I think before you headed out, and I left right at the beginning because I said I can't be part of these things that they were doing.
Well, I stuck it out for a little while until 2016, and then I was there for I think 25 to 30 hours a week, and they came to me and said, "No, you need to put in 40 plus hours a week." I'm like, "Well, okay. How much more money are you going to pay me?" "We're not going to pay you any more money." I went, "Excuse me?" So that's when I smell a rat. So I went looking for a touring gig again because my kids were grown and gone. And that's when I found the Peter Frampton gig. And I ended up landing that in 2016, playing bass with him. And then I went back to corporate and I went, okay, here's the deal. Keep me on. You can keep up all, for those of you who don't know, I've toured and done a bunch of fun, lucky enough to done a bunch of fun records, and I had a bunch of gold records on the wall, so the parents could see that this was a place that they could trust for their children to go. The kind of it was more reassurance for the parents that they were in good hands. And I said, look, keep everything up, just keep my insurance. I'll even pay for it. I'll come back in the fall. And they're like, no, that's not going to happen. I said, what about all these endorsements that I got for and all this equipment that I've got for your students to use for free? They were like, we don't care. I went, bye. So that's when I stepped out the door, and it was perfect timing. They didn't want to play ball, and I didn't want to be around for something that I knew, just like you, wasn't going to be a healthy atmosphere for me personally and for the students. Because if I'm not into it, how am I going to lead others to and convince my staff to show up 110% like we were doing up till that point? So,
no, it's exactly what happened. So, but yes, that's how you and I met way back when. And I'm the friendships I have with my fellow instructors from that time are some of the best friendships I think I've had as an adult, and so I'm so glad you were able to come on. And
thank you for having me.
And the thing you volunteered to talk about, the thing you love is running, and
I do.
I'm going to be very honest that I usually don't run unless something's chasing me. Although I did, I did 2 years of cross country in middle school, and then one day I came in after practice, and I was walking through the hallway, and I saw a friend of mine, and I said, "Tony, I don't like to run," and that was like the end of mine. But my high school student, or my stepson, we had him be in cross country because he's built like a runner, and and plus he just kind of needs to do something other than watch YouTube videos all day and play Minecraft. So and I said, well, he's not, and that's one of the things I liked about running was you don't have to be terribly athletic to do it. But I'd love to hear you talk about why you love running.
It's weird. I agree with you. My attitude towards running was, hell no, I'm not going to run unless someone's chasing me. And that was up until, when did I start running? I bet around 2007, 2008. And honestly, I'll tell you honestly why I started running, okay? I just started playing bass with an artist by the name of Kenny Loggins. So I'm on this tour, and I want to get to know the boss. I want to have a relationship with him. And he was a runner. And I'm like, oh boy, I don't want to do this. But he had asked me to meet him in the lobby. He said, why don't you come on a run with me? And I'm like, sure. And then I'm like, oh boy. So I show up, we go out, I'm struggling, and he's probably the age I am now when we were doing this. And so I'm 15 years his junior, and he was smoking me. And I was not having any fun whatsoever. But my whole premise, or my whole reason for doing this, was to get to know him, which I did, because we get on these runs and we We talk, we get to know each other. Started finding out about each other's families, just kind of cultivating a relationship. So that's how it started. Fast forward, a little bit into this experience. I was with him for about 6 years. I can't even remember how long I was with him, but instead of hating doing it, I started to adapt, I guess is the word I'm looking for, and started to feel the good effects of running instead of dreading it. I was like, God, I start to feel good after this, and I'm not sore because my muscles had adapted to this new activity. And I guess overall, what running does for me now, 15 years later, gives me an opportunity to get away from this, except for that's where my music comes from. Gives me an opportunity to clear my mind, because the mind is a terrible place sometimes. And the thing that really helps me cope with any stress whatsoever has been running. And I don't really know the reason for that. I'm sure there's some medical reasons and endorphins and all that good stuff and runner's high and the things that they talk about like that. But I tell you, my attitude is better when I run. My sleep, especially now, man, I'm sleeping great all the time, consistently. And when I'm sleeping better, I'm making better art. I have built up incredible friendships with my with old friends that we've reconnected on Facebook because of our love for running. It's a running community, and we call ourselves the geezers of gear, because we're not out there to win any races. We're there for the camaraderie, the to obviously stay in shape, and build friendships. We have about 3 or 4 people in this Geezers of Gear group, and we've done 4 or 5 marathons. Dude, if I would have said, if you would have said 15 years ago that you're going to run a marathon someday, let alone 4, I would have said you're absolutely out of your mind. But I got 4 marathons, very slow marathons, mind you, but who cares? The fact that I've actually completed and did them and I'm still walking today is amazing. So running for me is really become a way of life and something I look forward to doing.
So one of the things I think is kind of nice about running is it's fairly cheap to get into, right? You can get a good pair of running shoes and go. But just like every hobby or activity we have, there are a lot of different levels of the gear and whatnot. So what are you at right now for your running gear? What's your gear?
The gear is pretty easy. You're right. Every race that you sign up for gives you a shirt. That's just what they do. So I've got about 25,000 running shirts in my drawer, much to my wife's chagrin. She's like, Jesus, can't you off some of this stuff? Ow! So this is a running shirt, except I purchased this one. This one is from my buddy Victor Wooten, who's like the world's greatest bass player. He's into athletics and that kind of thing, and I bought that one to support him. What's great about running too is that it's a year-round sport, even in the frozen tundra that we live in. So shoes are important. I wear Newton Fates. They seem to work best for me in the way I run, in my gait. I'm not technically a great runner by any means. In fact, my cohorts in the Geezers of Gear are so much more into the gear than I am. I'm just like, dude, save me some time here and tell me what I should be wearing. And that's what they do. And they're like, try this. And there's a store called Gear on 44th in France. And one of my buddies works there, and he tries to point me in the right direction. So as far as winter running goes, there's shoes that give you not spikes, but are more geared towards stability on ice and snow. So you don't have to worry about falling as much. And the thermal gear that they have out for running is unbelievable, man. It protects every part of your bod. I mean, the gear is fantastic. So you don't have to worry about freezing, important parts of your body off when you're running. Uh, so that's all taken care of, Patrick. But
Good.
it's wonderful. It really, I mean, it's and then running in the summer, you don't need anything. Just well, except for some nice slick shorts, man. And then you go.
Where do you like to go running? Where's your favorite spot to go running? What kind of terrain do you like to run on?
I'm a road runner. I live 2 miles exactly from Harriet, so I just go down Penn Avenue on the sidewalk, which is fine. Then I get to Lake Harriet, and if I want to just go home, that's a 4 mile run. Other than that, if I'm running with the Geezers of Gear, then I drive to my buddy Bill's house, and he lives right over there anyways. And then we'll run the lakes. The lakes are the most beautiful place to run. I think we are so blessed in Minnesota to have incredible bike trails and running trails. It's urban running, but it's in the middle. It's like Central Park with water, with a lot of water. And what they've done during this pandemic is they've closed up the roads because you can't be 6 feet away from. You have to be at least 6 feet away from each other. And on a nice day, that's challenging. I mean, I spend more time bobbing and weaving and trying to get around these people because the stream or the slipstream of someone's breath and or sneezing or coughing when you're running is much longer than 6 feet. So I don't want to have any part of it. I don't run with a mask because you can't breathe. So, and they haven't really called for that for runners or anything like that. When I go for a walk in the neighborhood, I'm not running with a mask yet. But it's the urban running is just fantastic. And I'll tell you one other interesting thing about running, Patrick, is that when I was out with Peter Frampton, I was training for a marathon. And I would go out every day. Sometimes it'd be a 4 mile run. Sometimes it'd be a 17 mile run. The only thing I had to be careful of was overextending myself. I didn't want to show up for the gig and be tired and mentally drained and all that kind of stuff. So we call that the school night. So you have to be good to yourself on a school night or school day. But I saw the cities like nobody could have ever showed me. I mean, I'd plan out my runs. I'd go downtown. I'd see all the historic sites. I'd check out the restaurants. And it's just a cool way when you're on the road to see different cities. You wouldn't normally see them in that fashion.
Now you said you've done 4 marathons. And I have to imagine they get easier after you've done one.
Nope.
Nope. Okay. Well, I was going to say, how do you gear up for the very first time you're ever going to do a marathon? I mean, that must be just very intimidating to do it the first time, not knowing are you going to be able to complete, as opposed to the second time you can say, well, I've done one. I know I have the ability now to do this. What's that like to do a first marathon? And what was your first marathon?
I think my first marathon was the Mankato Marathon. And the reason it was the Mankato Marathon was because I had signed up with the Geezers of Gear to run the Twin Cities Marathon. But whenever I'd sign up for a race, I'd immediately get a gig on that weekend. So there goes the registration fee. There goes the hang. But planning on a marathon, you need to train, for 3 months in advance so you can actually finish. That's the whole point. It doesn't matter how fast it is, but you want to be able to say that you've finished. So the thing is that since I had to cancel, I still was in good shape, and it didn't really matter that it was going to be the Twin Cities Marathon or whatever marathon. So I found one in Mankato, and my family came down, and one of my other running brothers, Davide Razzo, who produces my podcast, came down and
Who
was
I
delivering.
remember as a student of ours way back when as well. Yeah.
Of course, he was one of our, yeah. So we've become great friends outside of that. It's kind of fun that he is a former student, but now he's taken over production of my podcast, which is great. We hang and run all the time. But he would follow me along on my bike, hand me bananas, hand me protein kind of little packets and things like that, and water or whatever the case may be. So I finished that thing, and it's super emotional, and I did fairly well, and it was a very hilly course with not a lot of. There wasn't a crowd there. Like Twin Cities Marathon, there are thousands of people lining the streets everywhere you go, and that really helps mentally to keep you going. Mankato was like, oh, there's a cow. Oh, there's a horse. Hey, look at the cornfields. Isn't that lovely? Oh, here comes another hill. Rah! So if it wasn't for my family being there, if it wasn't for Davide being there, just I knew I could look forward to a visit from him every 3 or 4 miles. If I could just get up to that point, then I could finish, and which I did, and it was super emotional. You get to the finish line, and I bawled my eyes out, and I was like, "What am I doing?" I think I was exhausted. I think I was proud of myself, and I think that 3 months of training to culminate to that was I was proud of myself. So there we go. That was the first marathon.
That's one of the things I like as I go to cross country meets with my stepson now. That's one of the things I really love about the cross country teams and parents and everything at these things. That everyone is so supportive of everyone, and I think that's one of the things I'm really happy about these days. Because when I did cross country, I had a really bad experience because there was not a lot of support. I was very slow. I was always last. I finished every race, but I was always last.
Right.
And every time I'd cross the finish line, my teammates would say, "Why don't you just quit?" Because I was last.
Well,
and there wasn't like parents coming.
You were kids.
Yeah, they
Kids
were.
are mean,
Kids can be cruel, and they take advantage of kids. Can be cruel, but there
Oh
isn't that.
yeah.
But I don't see that for my stepson, who is sadly as good of a runner as I am, apparently, because he's often last. But everyone is always clapping for him as he goes through. And we go and we shout, and his little siblings come and they cheer him on, and it's really cool to see. But it's really cool to see like, the other parents, other teams, they clap. They'll just shout out, "Hey, way to go!" They'll name, just say out the name of the town or whatever they see on the shirts.
Right.
But
way to go, runner!
Share,
yeah.
Exactly. Well, and I have to share a moment because my stepson has gotten progressively better at running, and we tease him that if he just tries a little harder, he'll start like at a time at the beginning of the season where like he just whatever, and he'll usually cut his time by like 5 minutes by the end of the season or more, just because he like tries harder. Like we just like try. But
right.
I have to share a story because this is a very positive thing, and I'm very proud of him. And I had to be the gushing parent for a moment. Is he'd done really well one week at a race, and the next week he's way farther behind than he had been the week before. And we're like, "What's going on? Come on!" And he goes, and he points to his teammate is with him. He goes, "I can go faster, but he can't, and he's having a hard time today." And he stayed with this kid who is a year younger than him. He stuck by him for the whole race so that they were the last two, even though he could have gone faster. And I was just so proud of him because he was just doing that to encourage this kid. And then, and then in true like sitcom fashion, as they get to the finish line, the other kid breaks into a sprint and past my stepson. So my stepson is last after he'd been like trying to encourage this kid the whole time. This kid goes and beats him. But
that is a life lesson right there, man.
Yeah, and so we said we're very proud that you did that. Next time, don't let him beat you, though.
Yeah, right. Make sure that you finish ahead of him.
Yeah,
that's so good. Now, what a great story! The running community is so very much like that. I remember coming up on the last 6 miles of the Mankato Marathon, and my daughter Kelly decided to run in the last 3.5 with me, which was great because I was done. But along the way, we saw a guy really struggling, and what people had done for me before, encouraging me to come on, we can do this. I did it for this guy. I'm like, come on, man, we've only got 3.5 left. Come on, let's run, let's row. So the accountability and the way the running community kind of just lifts each other up is fascinating and so needed. In even in a competitive fashion. I mean, it's like, look, we aren't running the win on the race, but let's finish this son of a gun, and let me help you do that by giving you some words or sticking with you. But so I commend your kid on that. That's very cool, and especially at that young age, that's great. It's been so fun, and it's something that anybody really can do. And I would, especially during the pandemic, I would encourage you to go. First of all, go to a get some shoes because you don't want to ruin your feet. And it's not only your feet, but if you have bad shoes, you can really upset your hips and your knees, and you don't want to do that. Let's just trust me because I made that mistake. But during these times, get out of the house as long as we can now. Avoid everybody that you can. But I'm going to tell you something. You may not like it at first. So start by doing a run and a walk, right? So if you get tired, stop. Walk for a minute. Then walk for a block and then run for a block. Stop. Walk for a block. Start slowly. This is something you can do during this time of lockdown. There's certainly not much else you can do. You can work out on your home, but this allows you to get outside. We've got beautiful weather. Thank God, I'm looking out my window right now. We've been waiting for this for 6 months. And this is one of the things that you are still allowed to do without, fear of infecting other people. But, do it safely. Try it out. Bring your favorite music with you. Bring your favorite person with you. Have a sense of accountability with someone else. I have a watch that helps me. This is a Garmin watch. This is some of the gear we were talking about. And what this does is it tracks the length of my runs or walks or treadmill or swimming, whatever the case may be. It also tracks my heart rate because, we want to be careful about that. Don't want to just drop over. So we set parameters within the watch of where we should be. And it'll warn you. It's like, hey, you're working too hard, man. Why don't you slow down? So the goal is not to kill yourself. The goal is to enjoy yourself. Don't go out and try to win the race right away. Don't overdo it, because if you do, you'll never go back. It's just like lifting weights. If you go in and, I feel like I'm 20 years old still. The next day you're like, I can't move. Don't do that. But allow yourself to get out with your friend or just by yourself. Put your favorite music in your ear. Or how about silence? Running in silence, listening to the birds. Those of you who can still hear. I'm not one of those people. But unless the bird's right here. Oh, there's a bird. Hi. Listen to nature. Listen to the birds. Run by the lake. Run down by Minnehaha Creek. Run on a trail. You're going to freak out how cool and how beautiful it is, and how much better you'll sleep, and how much your mind is cleared from the crap we witness on the news every day. I'd highly recommend it. And you know what you should listen to when you go out, Patrick?
Would it be perhaps Music on the Run with Paul Peterson?
Yes. What a great
segue.
What a wonderful idea. I think that's a great idea. Would you like to tell us
about your new podcast?
Oh, okay.
I'll force you. I'll twist your leg or twist your arm here.
Okay. So Music on the Run podcast came out of my love for running when I was on the road with Kenny Loggins and Peter Frampton. And I said, I'm not the only road musician who wants to stay in shape, or traveling comedian or businessman. How do you do this juggle between trying to stay in shape while you're gone in a tour bus or airplane, car, whatever the case may be. How do you stay in shape? How do you eat well? How do you keep your relationships intact? Who's taking care of the home front while you're gone? Are you dealing with, how do you deal with struggles and things like that back home? Most likely you're running a business. I mean, if you're a musician, you are in the music business. How do you run your business while you're on the road? And so we trade tips and tricks, things to avoid. And some of the people that I've had on are like, well, I don't work out very much at all. But let's talk about, how my family has thrived because of the way that I treat my wife and my children. These are things that I think that will give us ideas on how to survive, not only if you're a road dog, but just in life in general. So, of course, we talk about music because that's my background. And I've been blessed enough. The actual second podcast was with Stevie Guitar Miller, Rock and Roll Hall of Famer. I've also got to interview Kevin and Michael Bacon, Sinbad, Ben and Leo Sidran, so many people. This week's podcast is with Eric Clapton's bassist, Nathan East, and he's a wealth of information, and they've all been incredibly educational, but fun, because we're talking about rock stars. We all like to hear about these guys' adventures. That's fun. But we also get nuggets of information of how they live their lives, why are they successful, and how do they continually be successful and keep the gig. And I think it's great information, not only for young and up and coming musicians, but anybody who's out on the road, anybody who travels and wants to stay in shape, and how do they keep everything together. That is the nuts and bolts of it. And if you want links, just go to musicontherunpodcast.com. We do a video podcast and, of course, an audio podcast. And I'm taping one with my brother Ricky today, who just got off the Fleetwood Mac tour.
Well, it sounds great. Please, everyone, check it out. There will be links, as always, at the bottom of the YouTube here. So links to everything we always talk about for everyone, so they can make with the clicks. Paul, thank you so much for coming on to talk about running today.
Good to see you, man. I miss you. God bless you and your family, and thank you for having me a part of it, buddy.
I'm so glad. Please say hello to your whole family for me as well. We need to have like an MMI reunion one of these days, I think, and
we could do one right on Zoom. Let's do one in my backyard.
Hey, in your backyard this summer when we have the all clear before the second wave hits, it'll be like that 3-day window.
It'll be winter by then.
Yeah. But yeah, we need Lambert recorded an episode as well. James Lambert. Yeah. So he'll be doing this. He did a movie called 24-Hour Party People, which I could not get the name of right the entire episode we were filming.
But that's funny. So that's good.
Yeah. And then Snow's going to do an episode too, but he hasn't picked a topic yet.
Oh, great. Okay.
So we're going to have, a bunch of MMI folk coming around, and it'll be great. We're having a little reunion tour. So
thanks for including me, and get out and enjoy this beautiful weather. Try running. See what happens.
I might grab my stepson, and he might get me out there at one of these days. We'll see. It's been 30 years, but maybe I'll do it again.
Go slowly.
Go slow. Yeah. If I can make it to the mailbox, I'll be happy. Well, that's the nice thing about where I live is I'm in a rural area. So like yesterday we went, my kids and I, we went for a walk along my cornfield out by the woods and everything, because we can just go out walking without having to worry about encountering any people. And the great thing about when you go out with little kids is there's always sticks and rocks and acorns and all those other fun things that kids will find. And it's so we are getting out there, and it's a lot harder to run on a plowed field than it is a road. I will say that.
Oh, yeah. Don't do that. If you're going to run in the plowed field, get some trail shoes.
Yeah. Thank you again for coming on. Paul Peterson, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Take care. Bye, Patrick. Thank you, buddy.
Bye. We'll talk to you later. Bye.
Thanks for watching Thing I Love. I'm the Marvelous Patrick. For links on
all the stuff we've talked about, as well as our guests, please check out the show notes below. And also, for extended interviews and more bonus features, please check out patreon.com/marvelouspatrick. Thanks for watching. Hit the subscribe and like buttons, please. Bye.